The pavement groaned under the weight of a single step. Bruno stood in the center of the city square, his hooves grinding stone into dust with every shift of his massive frame. He flexed, the muscles across his back and arms bunching like coiled steel. He drew a breath that seemed to pull all the air from the plaza, then let out a roar that vibrated against the brick walls of the surrounding buildings. The crowd of animals retreated, their claws scraping against the cobblestones as they scrambled for distance. Bruno planted his feet, his gaze sweeping over the cowering onlookers. He held a heavy bag of gold high above his head. "I am the champion of this city," he bellowed. "Any challenger who can knock me down takes my gold. Who is brave enough to face me?" Silence followed. Not a single animal moved. The air grew thick with the tension of his challenge. Bruno let out a low, mocking snort, his nostrils flaring as he scanned the terrified faces. He tapped his chest, waiting for a challenge. A shadow detached itself from the back of the crowd. It was Chinu. She moved with a liquid, silent grace, stepping into the center of the square until she stood directly before the bull. She barely reached his knee. Bruno looked down, his eyes narrowing, and a thunderous laugh erupted from his chest. He shook his head, his nostrils flaring wide. "You? This is the best they can offer?" He sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "I will finish this in seconds." He lunged, his massive frame shifting with surprising speed, his fist swinging in a wide, crushing arc meant to end the fight before it began. Chinu did not flinch. She did not retreat. She simply pivoted on her heels, her paws silent against the stone. The swing whistled through the air, missing her by an inch. Bruno stumbled forward, his momentum carrying him off balance as he slammed his fist into the brick wall. Chinu was already 10 yards away, standing at the mouth of a dark, narrow alleyway. "Catch me if you can, boxer," she called out. The alleyway was a gauntlet of narrow turns and low obstacles, a space never designed for a bull of his stature. Bruno did not slow down. He hit a stack of wooden crates at full tilt, the dry timber exploding into jagged splinters that showered the path. He barely felt the impact, his momentum carrying him forward, but the debris scattered under his hooves, making the ground slick and uneven. He roared, his breath coming in ragged, heavy bursts as he tried to navigate a sharp left turn. His shoulder clipped the corner of a brick building, the stone scraping against his hide with a harsh, grinding sound. He pushed on, his eyes locked on the small, agile form of Chinu darting ahead. She was a blur of movement, leaping over obstacles. He lunged to close the gap, but his path was blocked by a low-hanging line stretched between two windows. He did not see it in time. The thick cord caught him across the chest, snapping taut against his weight. He stumbled, his momentum turning against him. The clothesline snapped, but the damage was done. Bruno hit the ground hard, his knees driving into the mud with a wet, heavy thud. He tried to push himself up, but his muscles trembled violently, refusing to obey the command. He gasped, his lungs burning. He saw a stray bucket lying in his path. With a guttural grunt, he lunged forward, desperate to regain his footing and continue the chase. His hoof caught the rim of the metal pail. He went down again, sliding face first into a pile of discarded, sodden trash. The impact left him motionless. He lay there for a long moment, chest heaving against the cold, wet ground. His arms felt like lead weights. The arrogance that had defined his posture in the square was gone, replaced by the raw, jagged rhythm of his own labored breathing. He could not lift his head. High above, on the edge of a wooden fence, Chinu sat perfectly still. She watched him, her eyes tracking the rise and fall of his back. The champion was pinned by his own mass, defeated not by a blow, but by the weight of his own exhaustion. The silence in the alley deepened. Chinu dropped from the fence, landing silently on the cobblestones just beyond his reach. She stood her ground, her gaze steady. "You are strong, Bruno," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. "But strength, without thinking, leads nowhere." Bruno looked at his bruised hands, then at the small cat. He nodded slowly, the tension leaving his frame. The arrogance that had once defined him dissolved. In the weeks that followed, The city square witnessed a different routine. Bruno still lifted heavy weights, but his afternoons were spent in the quiet corners of the park. He pored over complex maps, traced lines of logic in the dirt, and solved intricate puzzles laid out on wooden tables. He no longer sought to crush his surroundings. He sought to understand them. He had learned that a sharp mind was the greatest weapon of all, and that true power was not found in the weight of his arms, but in the clarity of his thoughts.